Hi everyone. So in this lecture we will talk about pseudocode. So what is a pseudocode? So pseudocode is a human readable description of an algorithm. Okay. So those who don't know what is an algorithm. So algorithm is nothing but a sequence of steps that we take to solve a particular problem. We have drawn flowcharts. So those steps in the flowcharts, they represent a particular algorithm. Okay. And what is a pseudocode? Pseudocode is not the real code. Okay. It is not the code that the machine can execute. It's a code that is written in plain English in a human readable form. Okay. So now why it is helpful? So as a beginner, it is helpful if you want to write something that is language independent. Okay. So if you want to write a code and that you want to get it reviewed from a person who does not know a particular language like C++ or Java or Python, so you can write it in the form of a pseudocode. So it will help you to write language independent code for a review. It will help you to structure your code before you actually start writing it. Okay, suppose you are not very sure about the structure of your code and you want to see if it will work in corner cases or it will pass all the tests. So you can write it quickly in plain English and then you can verify that this code works or this code does not work. Okay, so it is the fastest way to verify, to get a review as well. Okay, so that is what pseudocode is. So you can come up with your own notation of writing pseudocode, but there are few basic ways of writing it. So we can discuss one of those ways to define the pseudocode instruction set. So in our flowchart we have discussed almost 6 type of instructions. Okay, the first was start or end. So in pseudocode we generally don't have anything for the start, so that we will skip, but we will have exit for the end. If you want to denote end of a program, you can write exit. Okay, then we discussed that we have input and output. So in order to do input and output, you can say, okay, read a number n. That is how you will write it. Or you want to print something, you can say print the number n or print sum. With print there are two things. Maybe you want to print something as it is, so maybe you want to print hello. This will go into double quotes. If you want to print the value of something, like you want to print the value of sum, you will put it without double quotes. Okay, so that will print whatever is present inside the sum bucket. Another thing we have seen is assignment. You want to give a particular value to a variable. For example, you want to say marks equal to 80. That is written like this, using this symbol equal to. Okay, so that puts the number 80 inside a bucket called marks. Okay, so that is what assignment is. So assignment can also take the form of simple interest equals to p into r into t upon 100. So this is also assignment. Okay, so you have multiply here. So this is also a form of assignment. So what you're doing, you're evaluating a expression and you're putting the value of this expression inside a bucket called simple interest. So this is also an example of assignment. The next thing that we have seen in flowchart is a conditional box. Okay, is a conditional box. Depending upon the condition being true, we take one of the two directions, either yes or no. So that is represented using something known as if else. If a condition is true, then do this thing. Okay, so if followed by the condition, for example in this case, if I is less than n, then do this work. Okay, otherwise if this condition is false, then I will say okay, else do this work. Okay, so if has its own block and has its own block. Now there are ways to denote the opening and the closing of the blocks. So in Python there is a concept of indentation. That means we will leave this space empty before writing these instructions. So that basically tells that these instructions are part of this if block. In other languages like C++ and Java, we have curly brackets here that denote the starting and the ending of this block. So what instructions are part of if? So we denote it using curly brackets. In pseudocode, you can also use then and end to denote the starting and ending of the block. So else, then, and end. So I personally do not prefer writing then and end because it makes the code more lengthy, and I personally like these curly brackets. Okay, So whenever we will work with the language, we'll follow the rules of the language. But in pseudocode, you can use anything. You can use indentation, you can use curly brackets, you can use then and end. It's totally your choice. So we have seen how to write a if else statement as well. Another thing that we have is called as a loop. Okay, so we have seen that we can simulate a loop using flowcharts. How? Let's recall an example of a loop. So we said let I equal to 0, then we said okay, is I less than n. So there is no separate component for loop inside a flowchart, but we represented a loop using some components. Okay, and then we said I equal to I plus 1. So this is how we created a loop inside a flowchart by combining multiple different boxes. So for a loop to have, we had an initial condition, we had defined a stopping criteria, when to stop, we had defined some work that is repeated inside a loop, and we had defined a update condition. Okay, how to update the variable that is part of the stopping condition inside a loop. So in order to represent this part of the code, this part of the flowchart, we have something which is called as while loop. Okay, and this is common across all programming languages. So how do we write it? Let us see an example of this flowchart written in the form of pseudocode. So we will write I equal to 0, then we will say okay, while I is less than n, followed by curly brackets. Okay, so this is the condition. So while this condition is true, this part of the code that will be written here, okay, whatever work you want to do, this will be repeated continuously, and then you will have I equal to I plus 1. This part of the code is running again and again, okay, until this condition is true. So you do some work, you increment I, you again go here, you check the condition, you do some work, you again come here, and once this condition becomes false, okay, you come out of the loop and you end here. Okay, so if this condition is false, that means no, you come here and then you say okay, exit. That here will go here and then you will say exit. So these are 6 basic types of instructions that you will find in every programming language, and from the next video we will discuss some examples of pseudocode and we'll try to convert our flowcharts into pseudocode. So that's all for this video. Thank you.